My doorbell camera recorded my mother entering my house at 2:14 in the morning. She had been dead for 3 years. I saw the recording when I woke up. My phone was lying beside me, flashing with a motion alert that had arrived during the night. At first, I expected to see an animal or a delivery driver at the wrong address. Instead, the video showed an older woman walking slowly toward my front door through the rain. She wore a dark red coat. My mother owned that exact coat. She had worn it every winter for almost 15 years. The woman lifted her face toward the camera. I stopped breathing. She had my mother's silver-streaked hair. My mother's pale green eyes. Even the small scar above her right eyebrow was there. Then she entered the 6-digit code that unlocked our front door. The code worked. She stepped inside. My name is Anna Grant. I was 38 years old and lived with my husband, Daniel, and our 10-year-old daughter, Lucy, the night of the recording. All 3 of us had been asleep inside the house. The woman, who looked like my mother, had walked through the rooms while we slept. I replayed the footage. The woman arrived at 2:14. 11 minutes later, the camera recorded her leaving. She was not carrying anything. She paused beneath the porch light and looked directly into the camera. Her lips moved. There was no sound because rain struck the microphone. But I knew the shape of those words. I had watched my mother speak them 1,000 times. I'm sorry, my mother's name was Eleanor Grant. 3 years earlier, her car had left a mountain road during a storm. The vehicle rolled down an embankment and struck several trees. A rescue team found her inside. The county medical examiner identified her. I saw her body before the funeral. There was no doubt that my mother had died, yet the woman on my camera looked exactly like her. I shook Daniel awake. He watched the video without speaking. When it ended, he checked the locks and searched every room. Nothing appeared stolen. There were no damaged windows. The alarm had been disarmed with the correct code and reset before the woman left. Only 5 people had ever known that code. Daniel, Lucy. My mother. My uncle Richard, and me. Could this be an old recording? Daniel asked. The rain is from last night. Look at the package beside the door. It arrived yesterday. Someone could have edited it. The camera uploaded it directly. Daniel enlarged the woman's face. The resemblance became more disturbing. I understand why you think it's Eleanor, he said. But it can't be. I know. Maybe Richard knows who she is. My uncle Richard was my mother's younger brother. He lived 40 minutes away and managed the Grant Family Foundation, a charitable organization created by my grandparents. I called him. He answered after the 4th ring. Anna, it's 6 in the morning. Someone entered my house last night. Did you call the police? I need you to watch a video. I sent the recording. Richard remained on the line while it played. When he spoke again, his voice sounded strained. Who made this? My doorbell camera. That isn't possible. Does she look like Mom? No, the answer came too quickly. Richard, it's dark. The image is distorted. You're seeing what you want to see. I don't want to see my dead mother entering my house. Call the police and change the locks. I have a meeting. He ended the call. Richard's reaction troubled me almost as much as the recording. He had not asked how the woman knew the code. He had not asked whether Lucy was safe. He only wanted the conversation to end. We contacted the police. Officer Marcus Bell reviewed the recording and searched the house. There were no usable fingerprints. The woman had worn gloves. There were faint drops of rainwater in the hallway, but the wooden floor had already dried. Officer Bell asked whether my mother had sisters. No, she had one brother. Could the woman be a cousin? Not one who looks exactly like her. Did your mother ever mention a twin? No. He suggested that the woman might have used cosmetic alterations to resemble my mother. That explanation sounded no more reasonable than a ghost. After the police left, Lucy came downstairs. He saw the paused image on my phone. Why is Grandma wearing her red coat? Daniel and I looked at each other. You think that's Grandma? I asked. It looks like her. Did you hear anyone in the house last night? Lucy hesitated. I heard the music box. What music box? The blue one Grandma gave me. The music box had belonged to my mother when she was a child. After her death, I gave it to Lucy. It sat on a shelf in her bedroom. I thought the wind-up part was broken. Lucy said it had been broken for years. We went upstairs. The music box was not on the shelf. We found it on Lucy's desk. The lid was open. Inside was a tiny brass ballerina that should have remained still. I turned the metal key. The melody began playing. Someone had repaired it. Beneath the ballerina was a folded piece of paper. The message was written in block letters. Eleanor did not die because of the storm. Find the compartment before Richard does. Daniel examined the paper. Did your mother ever hide anything inside this? Not that I know of. We removed the velvet lining. There was no obvious compartment. The wooden bottom sounded hollow when Daniel tapped it. He found a small notch beneath one of the hinges. A thin panel lifted away. The space beneath it was empty. Whatever had once been hidden inside was gone. Maybe the woman took it, Daniel said. Then why leave a note telling us to find it? Maybe she expected something to be here. Lucy pointed inside the compartment. There's writing. Someone had carved 4 numbers into the wood. 417. April 17. My mother's birthday. It was also the code to a safe deposit box she once kept at our local bank. After her death, Richard and I emptied that box together. It contained insurance policies, jewelry, and property documents. There had been nothing unusual. By noon, the door code had been changed and additional cameras had been installed. I called Richard again. He refused to discuss the woman. He insisted grief had affected my judgment. Then he asked a question that made me certain he knew more. Did she take the music box? I had not told him about it. How do you know the music box was moved? Silence. I remember Eleanor gave it to Lucy. That isn't what I asked. I have work to do. He ended the call again. That afternoon, I returned to the bank. The safe deposit box had been closed after my mother's estate was settled, but the manager checked the access history. Someone had entered it 2 weeks before my mother died. My mother had been accompanied by another woman. The visitor signed the bank register as Miriam Shaw. The security photograph was still stored in the bank's digital archive. It showed 2 women walking toward the vault. One was my mother. The other looked exactly like her. They had the same face, the same height. The same eyes. The only visible difference was their hair. My mother's hair was cut short. The other woman's hair fell to her shoulders. The bank manager could not tell me what they removed from the box. That evening, an envelope appeared inside our mailbox. There was no stamp. Inside was a photograph of 2 newborn girls lying beside each other in a hospital bassinet. One was labeled Eleanor, the other was labeled Miriam. On the back, someone had written, "Identical twin girls." March 17, 1961. Below the photograph was a phone number. I called it. The woman answered after one ring, "Anna." Her voice sounded exactly like my mother's. "Who are you? My name is Miriam Shaw. Why do you look like my mother?" "Because Eleanor was my identical twin sister. Why did she never tell me about you?" "She was going to. Did you enter my house?" "Yes. Why? To find the evidence your mother hid." "Evidence of what?" For several seconds, I heard only her breathing. Then Miriam said, "Your mother's car did not leave that road by accident. Are you saying someone killed her?" "Yes. Who? The man you called this morning." My hand tightened around the phone. "Richard, your uncle murdered Eleanor." I agreed to meet Miriam the following morning. Daniel insisted on coming with me. We chose a crowded restaurant near the police station. Miriam arrived wearing a navy coat, without the darkness and rain. The resemblance to my mother was even stronger. She walked like Eleanor. She held her coffee cup with both hands. When she was nervous, she pressed her thumb against the side of her index finger. My mother had done the same thing. But there were differences. Miriam's voice was quieter. Her hair was longer. A small brown birthmark appeared beneath her left ear. My mother had not possessed that mark. Miriam placed a folder on the table. "I know this is difficult. You entered my daughter's bedroom while she slept. I believed all of you were visiting Daniel's parents. We returned early. I would never have hurt Lucy. You had no right to be in my house." "You're right. How did you know the alarm code?" "Eleanor gave it to me." "Why?" Because she hid something inside your house, the compartment was empty. Miriam looked genuinely frightened. Then Richard may already have it. I asked her to begin at the beginning. Eleanor and Miriam were born at St. Agnes Hospital in 1961. Their mother, Ruth Grant, had been told she delivered one healthy daughter and one daughter who died shortly after birth. She was allowed to see only Eleanor. Miriam had not died. A doctor working with a private adoption attorney placed her with a wealthy couple named Walter and Helen Shaw. The Shaws believed Ruth had willingly surrendered one of the twins because she could not afford the children. They raised Miriam in another state. Miriam always knew she had been adopted. She never knew she had an identical twin 5 years before Eleanor's death. Miriam took a DNA test. It connected her to one of our relatives. The match eventually led her to my mother. Miriam sent Eleanor a photograph. Eleanor called her the same day. They completed additional DNA testing. The results confirmed they were identical twins. Why didn't Mom tell us? She wanted to, Miriam said. But discovering me changed everything she believed about her parents. My grandmother Ruth had died 10 years earlier. My grandfather had died before her. They were no longer alive to explain what they knew. Eleanor searched their old documents. She found letters proving that Ruth had learned about Miriam when the twins were 14. The adoption attorney contacted Ruth and offered to arrange a private meeting. My grandmother refused. Why? Your grandfather believed revealing the truth would destroy their family, Miriam said. They had Eleanor and Richard by then. He convinced Ruth that I already had parents and should be left alone. My mother had spent her life believing her parents were honest people. The letters showed they had knowingly hidden her sister. Eleanor was ashamed of them. She was also afraid I would look at my grandparents differently, so she hid you from me. 2. For a while, Miriam and Eleanor met privately. For almost 2 years, they visited the hospital where they were born. They found the house where Miriam grew up. They compared photographs and childhood memories. My mother gave Miriam the red coat because she said it looked better on her. That explained why the woman on the camera wore it, but it did not explain my mother's death. Eleanor served as treasurer of the Grant Family Foundation. Richard managed its daily operations. The organization owned several properties and provided grants to community programs. After discovering Miriam, Eleanor reviewed the foundation's historical records, hoping to find payments connected to the adoption attorney. Instead, she found millions of dollars transferred to companies that did not appear to exist. Miriam had worked as a forensic bookkeeper before retiring. Eleanor asked for her help. Together, they traced the payments. The companies were controlled by Richard and one of his business partners. Over 7 years, Richard had diverted almost $2 million from the foundation. Did Mom confront him? Yes. What did he say? He claimed he borrowed the money to save his construction company. He promised to repay it. Did she believe him? No. Eleanor intended to report the theft. Richard begged her to wait. He told her an investigation would destroy the family name and eliminate funding for the charities depending on the foundation. She agreed to give him 30 days to return the money. Instead, someone began following her. Her office was searched. Financial documents disappeared. Then, the brakes on her car failed while she was driving through town. She avoided an accident by using the emergency brake. A mechanic found a loose end fitting in the brake system. Eleanor suspected Richard. She copied the financial evidence to a memory card. She hid it inside Lucy's music box. Miriam said, "How do you know?" "She called me the night before she died. She said the evidence would be safe in your house because Richard didn't know the box had a compartment. Why not go directly to the police?" She wanted one final document proving Richard owned the companies receiving the money. She was supposed to meet a bank investigator the following morning. She never reached the meeting. Her car left the mountain road at 7:40 a.m. Investigators Blamed heavy rain and excessive speed. No criminal. Investigation was opened. Why didn't you tell the police? I asked. I tried. Miriam had contacted the detective assigned to the accident. She told him about the financial fraud and the earlier break. Failure. Richard responded by accusing Miriam of blackmail. He showed the detective a bank transfer proving he had paid her $50,000. You accepted money from him. After Eleanor died, Richard called me. He knew where my daughter lived. He knew where my grandchildren attended school. What did he want? He wanted the copies Eleanor gave me, and you gave them to him. I gave him a folder containing incomplete records. I kept the memory card. Where is it? I mailed it to Eleanor. Miriam sent the memory card inside a birthday card addressed to my mother. The card arrived after the crash. Richard controlled my mother's mail while managing the estate. Miriam believed he intercepted it. Then, 6 months after the funeral, she received an unsigned envelope. Inside was the empty birthday card. The memory card was gone. I assumed Richard had it, she said. Then I remembered the music box. Eleanor may have removed the card before she died and hidden it there. Someone found the compartment before you. Yes. Why wait 3 years to come back? Miriam had used Richard's payment to hire a private investigator. She wanted proof strong enough to protect her family before accusing him. Again. The investigator found the shell companies and several foundation properties Richard had secretly prepared to sell. The sale was scheduled to close in 2 weeks. Once it happened, Richard could move the money and destroy the remaining records. Miriam returned because she was running out of time. Daniel looked through her folder. These are copies. How do we know they're genuine? We don't. I said. Miriam appeared hurt, but I had learned too many secrets to trust someone only because she looked like my mother. She gave me a certified DNA report showing that she and Eleanor were genetically identical. She also showed me photographs of their meetings. In one, my mother and Miriam were standing beside the lake. In another, they were sitting inside my mother's kitchen. The dates confirmed they knew each other for years. Then Miriam played an audio recording. My mother's voice filled the restaurant booth. Richard? I found the transfer to Northridge Holdings. My uncle answered. You don't understand what you found. I understand you stole from the foundation. I borrowed money from an organization our family created. That money belonged to the community. If you report this, every grant will be dragged through the investigation, including Anna. Do not bring my daughter into this. Then think carefully before you destroy her family. The recording ended. It proved Richard threatened my mother. It did not prove he killed her. I asked Miriam why she entered my house instead of contacting me. Because I did not know whether Richard was monitoring your phone. I planned to retrieve the card and leave. You frightened my daughter. I know. I am sorry. Before leaving the restaurant, Miriam handed me a key. It opened a storage unit my mother rented under her maiden name. Miriam had found the rental agreement among Eleanor's documents. I recognized the address 3 days after my mother's funeral. Richard told me he had emptied that same storage unit. He said it contained nothing except old furniture. We went there immediately. The manager confirmed that the unit was still active. Someone had paid the rent in cash for 3 years. The key opened unit 214. Inside were boxes of foundation records, family photographs, and my mother's personal journals. A desk stood against the back wall. On it was a small video camera. The battery was dead. Daniel connected it to a portable charger. Only one recording remained. My mother appeared on the screen. She looked tired and frightened. If Anna is watching this, then I was not able to tell her myself. She held up a small black memory card. This contains the foundation records and copies of everything Miriam and I discovered. My mother looked away from the camera as if she heard a sound outside the unit. Then she continued, I am hiding the card in Lucy's music box. Tonight, my chest tightened. The compartment had been empty, but the video was not finished. If the card disappears, Eleanor said, there is another copy. She looked directly into the camera. Anna, remember where you buried the time capsule?
The time capsule had been buried 25 years earlier. I was 13 when my mother helped me place it beneath an oak tree at my grandparents' old farmhouse. Inside were family photographs, a school essay, and a silver bracelet. The farmhouse now belonged to Richard. He used the surrounding land to store equipment for his construction company. If my mother had hidden a second memory card there, we would have to enter Richard's property to retrieve it. I wanted to call the police. Miriam warned me that the old investigation had already treated her as a blackmailer. The financial documents in her folder could be challenged as copies. The recording captured a threat, but not a confession. Daniel suggested contacting Officer Bell. He had responded to our house after the doorbell recording and had no connection to my mother's original accident investigation. Officer Bell listened without interrupting. We showed him the doorbell footage, DNA report, bank photograph, audio recording, and my mother's video. He agreed there was enough information to request a review, but searching Richard's property required a warrant or his permission. The time capsule had belonged to me. The land did not. Officer Bell advised us not to enter. That evening, Richard arrived at my house. The new camera recorded him standing on the porch. He did not ring the bell. He stared into the lens before stepping away. Then my phone rang. You met Miriam, he said. How do you know? She's been following me for years. She says you killed Mom. She's been blackmailing our family since Eleanor found her. Did you steal money from the foundation? I moved funds to protect several properties during a financial crisis. Into companies you controlled? You don't understand business. I understand the audio recording. Richard became quiet. Miriam recorded private conversations. Mom recorded you. You need to give me everything that woman brought. No, Anna, Miriam is dangerous. She is Mom's sister. She's a stranger who used cosmetic procedures to resemble Eleanor. The DNA report says they were identical twins. Documents can be forged. So can foundation accounts. Richard's voice hardened. Do not let her destroy what your grandparents built. You already did that. I ended the call. 10 minutes later, an alert appeared on Daniel's computer. Someone had attempted to access our camera account using my mother's old email address. Richard had managed the email account after her death. Daniel changed every password and downloaded the complete camera history. That night, someone broke into the storage unit. The manager called us after the alarm activated. The intruder escaped before police arrived. Nothing valuable appeared missing, but my mother's journals and video camera were gone. Officer Bell reviewed the security footage. The intruder wore a hood and mask. He drove a white utility truck with a partially covered company logo. The visible part matched Grant Construction. Richard claimed one of his vehicles had been stolen. It was found abandoned. The next morning, the interior had been wiped clean. The break-in did not prove Richard had ordered it, but Officer Bell convinced a detective from the Financial Crimes Division to examine the foundation records. Investigators issued an emergency order preventing Richard from selling the properties. The sale was frozen. Richard publicly blamed me. He told the foundation board that grief and a fraudulent stranger had manipulated me. Several board members believed him. They had known Richard for decades. They had never heard of Miriam. Miriam agreed to speak before the board. She explained the twin adoption and showed the DNA evidence. Richard played the recording of their earlier telephone conversation. In it, Miriam demanded $50,000 in exchange for the files. She had not told me that part after the meeting. I confronted her. You said he offered you the money because he threatened your family. He did. You demanded it. I needed him to believe I cared about money. You made yourself look like a blackmailer. I needed funds to investigate him and move my daughter somewhere safe. You should have told me. I thought you would see me the way they did. You entered my home and hid part of the truth. How did you expect me to see you? Miriam lowered her head. I spent my whole life wondering why my mother gave me away. Then I found Eleanor, and for the first time, I had someone who shared my face and understood what was taken from me. Her voice broke. When Richard killed her, I wanted him punished. But I was afraid. I made mistakes. I understood fear, but understanding did not create trust. I told Miriam to stay away from our house until the investigation was complete. She accepted my decision. 2 days later, Lucy disappeared after school. The school called when she failed to arrive at the pickup area. Her teacher had seen her leave with a gray-haired woman wearing a red coat. I called Miriam. She did not answer. Daniel and I drove toward her hotel while Officer Bell issued an alert. My phone rang from an unknown number. It was Lucy. Mom? Where are you? I'm with Miriam. Are you hurt? No, she said someone was following me. Miriam came on the phone. A white truck waited near the school. The driver followed Lucy when she started walking toward the crossing guard. Why were you at her school? I wanted to make sure Richard did not use her to pressure you. You should have called the police. I did. I'm taking her to the station now. Officer Bell confirmed Miriam's call. A patrol car stopped the white truck. The driver was an employee of Richard's construction company. He claimed Richard asked him to bring Lucy to the farmhouse because of a family emergency. Richard denied giving the instruction. The employee's phone contained a message from a prepaid number. Police could not immediately connect it to Richard, but the incident changed the investigation. Officer Bell obtained authorization for officers to accompany me to the farmhouse and retrieve my personal time capsule. Richard's attorney objected. The original property survey showed that the oak tree stood 2 feet beyond Richard's boundary, on land still owned by the family foundation. The board granted U.S. permission. We went at dawn. The oak tree was larger than I remembered. My initials remained carved into the trunk. Daniel used a shovel to remove the soil. 2 feet down we found a rusted metal container. The lid had been opened and resealed recently. Inside were the photographs. Essay and bracelet. I remembered. There was no memory card. Someone had found it. I stared at the empty space where it should have been. Then Lucy picked up my old school essay. Mom, there's something inside this. The pages had been glued together around the edges. Officer Bell carefully separated them. A micro SD card fell onto the table. My mother had hidden it inside the essay because she knew Richard would search the obvious compartments. Daniel copied the files onto 3 encrypted drives. The card contained bank records, property transfers, and emails between Richard and the owners of the shell companies. It also held the complete backup for my mother's home security system. The night before her crash, Richard visited her house. The camera recorded their argument. You promised 30 days, Richard said. That ended yesterday, my mother replied. I'm going to the bank investigator in the morning. You will destroy everything. You did that when you stole the first $1. What do you want? I want you to confess and return the money. I can't return what's gone. Then I'm going to the police. Richard moved closer to her. If you get into that car tomorrow, think carefully about the road you take. Is that a threat? It is advice from your brother. He left at 10:38 p.m. 20 minutes later, another camera recorded Richard entering my mother's garage. He remained there for 11 minutes. He carried a small tool bag when he left. He no longer carried it. The following morning, my mother drove toward the bank meeting. Her brakes failed on the mountain road. The final file was an audio recording made inside her car. My mother's frightened breathing filled the speakers. The brakes aren't working. There was a loud crash. Then silence. Lucy began crying. Daniel turned off the recording. Officer Bell immediately transferred the evidence to the state police. Investigators reopened my mother's death as a suspected homicide. Police arrested Richard that evening on charges related to financial fraud and evidence tampering. The murder investigation required additional proof. The original vehicle had been destroyed 2 years earlier, but investigators reviewed the crash. PHOGOGRPHSA. Forensic mechanic found something the first examination had missed. The rear brake hose had a clean cut, inconsistent with crash damage. Richard had entered the garage the night before the crash. He had threatened my mother. He had tried to steal her records, and the financial evidence gave him a motive, but Richard still refused to confess. Then Miriam gave police one final piece of evidence. The night my mother died, Richard called her. Miriam had recorded the conversation. His exact words were, Eleanor made her choice. If you come back, the same thing will happen to Anna. Miriam had kept the recording for 3 years. Why didn't you give them this earlier? I asked. Because Richard also said he would kill my daughter. I was a coward. You were afraid. I let fear protect him. So did Grandma. So did Mom for a while. So did everyone in this family. Miriam looked at me. What happens now? Now we stop hiding. Richard's trial began 14 months later. He was charged with murdering my mother, stealing from the Grant Family Foundation, destroying evidence, and attempting to intimidate witnesses. His attorneys argued that the crash resulted from mechanical failure. They described his threat to Miriam as angry words spoken during a family dispute. They claimed the garage recording showed him retrieving tools he had previously loaned my mother, but the evidence created a timeline he could not explain. He threatened Eleanor. He entered her garage. Her brake line was cut. She died the following morning before reporting his financial crimes. After her death, Richard controlled her mail and estate records. He paid Miriam to disappear. He broke into the storage unit. His employee attempted to remove Lucy from school. Most importantly, investigators discovered that Richard had purchased a replacement brake-cutting tool 2 days after the crash. The original tool was never found. The jury found him guilty of financial crimes and evidence tampering. After further deliberation, they also found him guilty of my mother's murder. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. The stolen foundation properties were recovered. Some of the money was gone, but the remaining assets were placed under independent management. The organization was renamed the Eleanor Grant Community Trust. Miriam refused any money. She asked only that the foundation release the historical adoption documents found among my mother's files. Those records helped several other families search for children separated through illegal private adoptions. My grandparents' decision to hide Miriam could not be changed, but their silence no longer controlled her. Identity. Miriam legally added Grant as a middle name. She did not take my mother's name or try to replace her. For several months, I struggled to look at her. Every expression reminded me of Eleanor. Sometimes Miriam laughed, and I turned around expecting to see my mother. Lucy adjusted more quickly. She called her Aunt Miriam. Miriam taught her the same card games my mother once taught me. She knew the same lullabies because Eleanor had shared them during their secret meetings. One afternoon, I found Miriam and Lucy repairing the blue music box. The woman on my doorbell camera had fixed its broken mechanism before leaving a note. I carried the same kind of music box as a child, Miriam said. The Shaws bought it because it was the only object described in my adoption file. The twins had grown up in separate homes with nearly identical music boxes. Neither knew why. It had been one of the few details the hospital allowed both families to keep. When the repair was finished, the ballerina turned while the old melody played. For the first time, the sound did not frighten me. My relationship with Miriam developed slowly. I did not immediately forgive her for entering my home or hiding evidence. She did not expect me to. She answered every question. She showed me the bank records proving how she used Richard's payment. Most of it funded the private investigation. The rest paid to move her daughter's family after Richard threatened them. Eventually, I understood that Miriam had not returned for revenge alone. She returned because Richard was preparing to steal the foundation's final properties. If she had remained silent, everything Eleanor died trying to protect would have disappeared. On the 4th anniversary of my mother's death, we visited her grave. Miriam wore the red coat. For years, seeing it had meant seeing my mother. That day it belonged to Miriam. She placed a photograph beside the headstone. It showed the twins during their final meeting. They were sitting beneath an oak tree with their heads resting together. Eleanor wanted to tell you, Miriam said. She had 2 years. She was ashamed that she repeated your grandparents' mistake. She still repeated it. Yes. I appreciated that Miriam did not defend her. My mother had been brave enough to confront Richard, but she had not been brave enough to introduce her sister to me. Love did not erase that mistake. Death did not make every choice she made correct. Before leaving the cemetery, Miriam handed me a seal letter. Eleanor had written it the week before the crash. Miriam had kept it because my mother asked her to deliver it only after the truth became public. The letter began, "My dearest Anna, I have a sister. Her name is Miriam, and finding her has been both the greatest joy and the greatest shame of my life. The joy came from discovering someone who carries memories in her face that neither of us lived together. The shame came from realizing that after condemning my parents for hiding her, I began hiding her too. I told myself I was protecting you. The truth is that I was protecting the version of our family I had taught you to believe." My mother explained the foundation records and Richard's threats. Then she wrote, "If I fail to come home, do not let Richard convince you that I was confused or careless." And do not let my death turn Miriam into a ghost. She has spent her entire life being treated like someone who should not exist. Please give her the chance I was too afraid to give her. I folded the letter. Miriam was watching me from several feet away. For 3 years, I believed my mother's death was caused by rain and a dangerous road. Then, I believed her ghost entered my home. The truth was more painful. The woman on my porch was not a ghost. She was the living proof of a secret my family had protected for more than 60 years. Several months after the trial, we changed our front door again. Daniel installed a new lock. This time, I gave Miriam a code of her own. No more entering at 2 in the morning, I told her. I promise. And no more red coat in front of the camera. She smiled. I cannot promise that. One rainy evening, my phone displayed another doorbell alert. Miriam stood on the porch wearing the red coat. For a second, my heart reacted as it had the first night. Then Lucy ran toward the door. Aunt Miriam is here. I watched Miriam enter using her own code. She carried no secret key. She left no mysterious note. She was not hiding from Richard. She had come for dinner. The camera had once recorded. A woman I believed had returned from the dead, but it had not captured my mother. It had captured the truth arriving at my door. 3 years after Eleanor's funeral, her sister finally entered our family through the same doorway where she'd once appeared as a ghost, and this time, no one asked her to disappear.